what the original Xbox looked like in 2001. It's a far cry from what we see
It's
today.
a fire
otherworldly design.
menu.
In fact, that's exactly what Microsoft intended. It was made to look alien,
Xbox sucks though.
exciting, and powerful. If you fell asleep next to this screen, there was a good chance you'd wake up to the sounds of inhuman voices, and a wailing ambience that feels more at home in the depths of Subnautica. The PlayStation 2 also had a very unique feel to it, from the futuristic startup screen to the menu, with these floating
Yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. Magic. Greatest systems of all time. The PlayStations.
objects representing each game. Of course, it wasn't just consoles that used to look like this. The term Y2K, more broadly, describes a range of unique, strange, and downright disturbing aesthetic styles from the early 2000s. A time when tech was still an unchained collection of zeros and ones that could fly around your house at lightspeed, but somehow couldn't run Crysis. Anyway, let's dive in.
Why is everything chrome?
Everything is chrome in the future.
Coming at a similar time to the obsession with making everything see-through, we'll get to that later,
Fire.
there was a trend of metallic, silver technology and media. You might remember this from things like the Nintendo DS, flip phones and digital cameras. It was usually achieved with a curved chrome-plated plastic, a great example being this version of the PlayStation 3 controller, or even an earlier concept for it. However, if you grew up around the time, you probably recognize it more from music videos. People love to set them in these weirdly abstract and futuristic environments, likely to show off their superior CGI budget. This is captured perfectly in Busta Rhymes and Janet Jackson's What's It Gonna Be from 1998, where everything down to their teeth is covered in this fluid chrome plating. Album covers got a similar treatment, with the same blue-tinted silver objects being prevalent in design. A lot of people refer to this trend in general as chromecore. The main distinction between this and aesthetics like cybercore is the use of less diverse color palettes and gradients. However, I believe the main reason for their popularity in the 2000s is pretty much identical. With effects like this rapidly emerging and wowing audiences across the world, there was a deep fascination with rendering reflective 3D objects. So they were linked with actual advancements in technology at the time, but also
it just like does something to your brain when you see it though. Like it's fire. Like it just looks good.
allowed for the creation of these exciting interpretations of the future. For example, you'll notice a lot of
Yo, appreciate the follow.
are just cool These designs weren't limited to technology and media. Architectural movements like Blobism made use of these rounded chrome objects as well. Have a look at these seats from a New York jeans store in 1997, or this prediction
I'm good, bro.
of household appliances in 2020.
Clear craze. I was a fan of this. I had that
If you never had a
exact controller.
like this, I'm sorry. Because another huge trend in the early 2000s
I did not have this controller because I did not have. I had Xbox 360. I think I had an original Xbox for a little bit, but we don't play Xbox.
was these translucent, colorful casings for devices. Of
I had the Did I have this Game Boy Color? I used to have some Mad Catz controllers that was clear. I think I might have had this Game Boy Advance. I definitely had a Nintendo 64 purple see-through controller. Yep, I know that. And I had a red one. I don't know if the red one was see-through. I think it was.
Of course, this design choice wasn't necessarily anything new, having been around since the 80s and things like the Game Boy Advance. However, it was extremely popular. If you have $500 spare now, you can see it yourself in the original Halo Edition Xbox with its dark see-through green. The PlayStation 2 even had an ocean blue version that came equipped with a translucent controller. I remember loving tech like this, and the way you could look inside and pretend you knew what the hell any of the switches and wires were doing.
Bro.
Other prominent examples are the iMac G3s, and the whole slogan of "Sorry, no beige." This of course refers to a series of advertisements put out with the iMacs in 1999 to accompany the 13 or so widely different coloured casings. Apple, like many others, used these sorts of colourful designs to distance themselves from the previous generations of technology and capitalise on the hype around futurism. Today, this transparent type of tech is more of a novelty, and I associate it more with lower quality hardware that's trying to appear more interesting than it actually is. That being said, I wouldn't be upset if Xbox started shipping consoles with controllers like these again.
Yeah. we probably live in one of the worst eras, bro, of all time. Like, because I feel like now we are trying so hard to sell nostalgia and trying to go back to the nostalgic, like, feel of things that we don't embrace the era that we in. We don't even know the potential of what our era could be, what this generation could be, what the 2020s could be, because we're so bought into this idea of reselling nostalgia. All of the movies are remakes. All the movies are trying to push these old actors into doing, you feel me? We got another Bad Boys, man. Like, we don't need another Bad Boys, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's just leave that at the greatness that it already was. We don't have to keep pushing this. Man, like, we just don't know the potential of what this could be if we wasn't trying to always go back to something. You feel me? Every summer, a nigga talking about summer 16. Nigga, it's summer 2024, bro. Like, let it be it. You feel what I'm saying? Because then you look back and then, you feel me? Like, you look back and then, I don't know, man. I just don't know. I'm just tired of it, bro. Like, I'm tired of it. Let's live in our era. Let's embrace our era. Let's see what we can do from our era. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe our era is just, this era is just going back to push everything else. You know? I don't know.
Naturally, this brings us to the aesthetics of gaming in the late 90s and early 2000s. Before the era of endless boxes and panels, a lot of UIs would take on a more adventurous and, at times, surreal form. I've already mentioned the obvious examples of Xbox and PlayStation 2.
This was better.
You can look a bit closer at games themselves. Halo CE is a great example, with its chromes and blues giving the menu a unique, futuristic feel. Hot Wheels Velocity on PlayStation 2 is another, drawing from a similar color palette and style of text.
Oh, that looks nostalgic, man.
Translated into a number of different widgets for Windows devices, particularly the media player.
I don't like that,
the original
though.
one from Halo 2 pop up again, as well as this awesome Xbox theme for Windows XP.
Oh, that's hard.
Something else I've noticed recently is a fascination with showcases in stores from the 2000s, especially those around the original Xbox and PlayStations. Take a look at this, the first and only example of an in-person, physical PlayStation store.
Oh, that's
Before closing
hard.
in 2009, this shop was home to all of the latest games and consoles, with its curved architecture and futuristic design. Another cool
Oh my gosh, but that's what I'm saying. Like, all we gotta do is do more now, you know? Like, we like this because they don't do stuff like this no more. You feel what I'm saying? Like, it's not that it was better. Well, it is better, but it's just because we don't put in the effort. You feel what I'm saying? Like, when we drop something, like, when something drops, it needs to have effort into it. I was just looking into, like, you know, I've always been into thrifting and vintage and stuff like that. And when you thrift a lot, you find all these crazy shirts, you feel me, from back in the day of, like, random stuff. Like, random, you might find a Uno shirt. You feel me? Like a Uno card game shirt. But it's so crazy. It has all these different colors. It might be an all over print. It might have a crazy graphic on it. You feel what I'm saying? We don't get that type stuff no more. We don't get that type of marketing anymore. It's like no life to anything. You feel me? Like, I just wish we would put more love into stuff, put more soul, put more passion into stuff. That's what it is. This era lacks passion. That's why we're trying to repackage everything and resell everything and live in nostalgia, because we don't want to put in the effort to do something, man. Like to do something that we care about. Like, man, I don't know, man. I'm getting pissed off, man. I'm getting pissed, bro. Like, this is fire though, man. I like down to the stools, you know what I mean? The different colors of the buttons being the stools. I used to have a stool like this, actually. I got it from a yard sale one time for like $5. I don't know why I had that stool was mad uncomfortable, but I just thought it looked dope. You feel me?
Example is this Xbox booth at a 2001 Tokyo Game Show. I love the cases full of Xboxes and various controllers, all lit by an alien green glow. The booths of today are a bit different, opting for cleaner, glossier, and more minimal displays. There are also a lot of advertisements that follow the same aesthetic principles. You'll note similarities across images like these, having almost psychedelic swirls, patterns, and gradients in the background,
That's hard.
and chrome emblems and text. They were made to be edgy and attention-grabbing, much like the design of games and consoles themselves. Dubbed after a 2001 book of the same name, Metal Heart can be described as an edgier version of aesthetics like Cybercore. A lot of the widgets and designs I just mentioned fall under this category, featuring abstract, jagged, and metallic shapes. The images you'll see associated with it feel very mechanical and otherworldly. Reaching its peak popularity around 2001, a lot of later designs were likely influenced by the aesthetics in The Matrix, inspiring digital artists and communities like DeviantArt. Metal Heart would ultimately fall into obscurity long before the 2010s, and the emergence of aesthetics like Fruitiger Aero.
What? What did he say?
Some crazy sounds in here.
Get off my screen, nigga.
The aesthetic called Gen X Soft Club is probably my favourite one in this video, and a style you likely didn't know had been given a name.
Yeah, I like
It's
that. I
essentially
like
a
this
softer
style.
representation of Y2K and 90s futurism, characterized by cool color schemes, skylines, and blurred, distorted graphics.
Yeah,
Looking at
I like
images
this.
like these, you'll probably notice some other common stylistic elements. A lot of them use a technique called the Lomo effect, a method of analog cross-processing that gives them their soft visuals. You can see it more in album covers like this, and even the cover art of games like Dead or Alive 2. Additionally, a lot of settings
that's
across the
nice.
Mirror's Edge titles give off a very similar feel.
Do something to your
Especially when looking
brain.
at office spaces and urban design, showing that the style is still somewhat inspirational today.
What's this instrumental? That must slap it.
Now, it wouldn't be a Y2K video if I didn't touch on some of the fashion-related aesthetics.
Ah.
Today, when people use the term Y2K,
And the girls was eating. The girls was eating back in that era, bro. I ain't gonna lie. That fire. That stuff fire.
often referring to a bunch of different clothing styles from the early 2000s, which have been divided up into a lot of different categories. I've touched on this in an earlier video, but one of the most prominent is McBling. This encompasses the trend of rhinestone-studded flip phones, hot pinks, silvers, and golds.
McBling.
Basically anything a Brat style would be sold wearing at the time. Common themes are animal print clothing, slogan t-shirts, and low-rise jeans. Today you'll spot it in TikTok hashtags or collages of various pinks and metallic items. Another distinct style is known as 2K1. A lot of this revolves around denim outfits.
I didn't know all
clothing
this
that
stuff
incorporates
had
the American flag. Throwback jerseys are
names.
another common thread, alongside low-rise jeans, similar to McBling. It can also be seen in music videos, often associated with pieces like Can't Deny It from 2001. Nowadays, the term Y2K has become pretty ambiguous. It originally referred to a software problem known as the Y2K bug, which I'm sure you've heard more than enough about online. It's become more known now as simply a general name for a number of distinctly 2000s design aesthetics, which can be broken down into useful categories.
Yeah.
In answering the question of why it looked the way it did, a lot of it can be boiled down to brands trying to capitalize on the excitement for the new millennium and the promises of technological advancements. People were more likely to buy into a console that felt alien and futuristic, or products with interesting shapes and a slick coating of chrome. Additionally, as digital art became more accessible and the software more powerful, the natural thing to do was to show it off with complex renders or textures in music videos. Anyway, that's all we've
Okay, thank you, brother. Okay, that actually makes sense though. That makes sense then. Like, essentially, all of these companies were doing the same thing that companies do now. It's just what was popular was the futuristic aesthetic. What's popular now is the nostalgic aesthetic. So everything is marketed in that way. You feel me? As opposed to creating something new or having something that's associated with the era that it's in. It's going back to an era. But we already lived through these eras. You feel me? So it's like, it feels like cheap repackaging because we actually lived through this. I actually had these controllers. I actually seen this marketing. I actually had these games. You feel me? I actually had these menus and stuff like that. So it now it just feels like it's cool, but it's not what it used to be. So it's like, I don't know. It just ain't gonna hit. You know what I mean? But that was a great video, for sure. That was a great video.